and then other students can see this. Okay, so hi. Okay, all right. So I'm Janelle Laredo. This is Gabriella, and then my other student Hongjun. And today we're going to talk about cyborgs and cyberpunk and cybernetics and all of that good stuff. So to kind of start off with, does anyone you want to give a definition of a cyborg or cybernetics? Just go ahead.
Basically, a combination of man and machine.
Okay, yeah.
Static limbs and just, I guess, embed technology on the brain or consciousness. It depends.
Yeah. What about you, Hongjun? What do you think like your definition of what it means to be a cyborg is?
I mean, pretty much along the same line. It's like using where augmentation of some human function is a commonplace thing, like integrated chips in body and stuff. And it's also kind of like the experiment of what happens when the line between machine and man are blurred.
Yeah, which is kind of freaky. I never really thought about cyborgs that much. I always, I guess in my brain, I kind of group them in with robots. But what do you guys think? Like, anyone of you can take this. What do you think is the difference between robots and cyborgs, like for the layperson?
I think the main reason would be cyborgs just have a combination of humanity in them, whereas robots are just fully man-made.
Fully synthetic. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So cybernetics, how does that come in? So if cyborgs are humans who are enhanced with all this extra stuff, what role does cybernetics play in that?
I think it had a more, if I remember the definition correctly, it was more, I guess, not raw, but just more demanding, I guess, where it was very dictating and what they would do, how they would do it, what time they would do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
What about you, Hongjun?
Cyborgs, I mean, I wouldn't add too much to that. I mean, that pretty much gets it, like a combination between a human and robots.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. So like, I really like that example that I found of the cybernetic jewelry. I don't know about you, but I was really freaked out by it. The one where she wears it on her the bridge of her nose, and then it uses the kinetic energy from her eyelashes to do something. And there was another one where it kind of got into her bloodstream, and then it used the
yeah, it looks painful.
Yeah, so there is something fundamentally like kind of creepy about or at least for me. I don't know about you. So talking about cyborgs, how do you see the cyborg at work in the readings for the week? And you can talk about Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, or you can talk about the feminist cyborg essay. So how do you see the figure of the cyborg working in these texts?
And which ones, to be specific, in any of them?
Yeah, whatever. Like you can talk about, because what are we talking about this week? So it's like Philip K. Dick's Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the feminist cyborg essay. It's escaping me, the author. But then also you watched Blade Runner or DYNAMO, the YouTube show. So how do you see the figure of the cyborg working in that? Because I know Philip K. Dick, he kind of created the cyborg in Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
Well, I was a little bit confused on the Blade Runner, to be honest.
Yeah, talk to me about it.
Because I think when I saw the first one with Harrison Ford, it started off saying these are robots that are just extremely like human. So I'm just like, wait, how is this cyborg?
Yeah, because what does he call them? I can't remember it, and I don't have my notes in front of me. But what does he call it in Philip K. Dick's story? He calls them something else. Like he doesn't call them replicants. Like that's something from the Blade Runner. I forget, but there's another name for them. So yeah, that kind of really threw me off as well, where it's like, wait a minute, these are robots. What are we talking about here? So yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Gabriella?
I'm not sure. I was actually really confused on Blade Runner as well. I just
Yes.
saw it mostly as just government, like let's say police officers and whatnot, whereas they just went rampaged and crazy, and they called the cop Harrison Ford to just eliminate them. I saw the movie last year. I saw the original one, but I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of it for some reason. But I want to watch the new one.
Yeah, me too. I mean, because Ryan Gosling, right? But anything with him in it. But there is definitely between the story and the movie, there's definitely a disconnect. Because in the story, it seems like, I don't know, like, and I you would not be the first to not understand Ridley Scott. Because he cut and recut that movie so many times. There are so many versions and cuts of it. But it was a real struggle to kind of like synthesize the two. So maybe like let's just focus on the Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. So what did you think about how do you think the cyborg is functioning in that? Because we have an electric sheep. Does that count as a cyborg? Because it's a sheep. Or no, it's a robot.
Good if it was like made with another animal, which is the sheep. I think it could be like an animal cyborg hybrid.
Yeah, I think it's wholly like it's completely like machine, and that's like his whole insecurity, right? Like he's insecure about his neighbor ever asking him, is your sheep genuine? That's a question for the ages. But I don't know. What do you think, Hanjun, like about the story or about the?
Wait, which story?
The Philip K. Dick one, the Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
That was actually a story that we had to read.
Yeah, it was the excerpt from the book where he actually wakes up and he has like a mood stabilizer.
Actually,
you remember that one?
I actually never saw that on the Blackboard link.
Oh, never mind. That's okay. We don't have to talk about that. So maybe let's try another tact. What questions do you have about cyborgs and kind of their place in the text that we're talking about that week? Let's kind of maybe go that tack and talk about what interested you about cyborgs.
Okay. Well, I was going to mention this earlier, like the difference between cyborg and human. Cyborg and robot.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing is fundamental about cyborgs. Isn't it fundamental that cyborgs have actual human consciousness? Like, or else they're just machines with flesh attached to them and stuff. So, that's just what piqued my interest.
Like more interested in cyborgs than robots?
Like if definition of cyborg actually requires that cyborg has some kind of consciousness, human consciousness. Yeah.
Oh, what do you think, Gabriella?
It's a good way to approach it because, like he said, because robots are just completely just man-made. They have no emotions, feelings, empathy whatsoever. And cyborgs are just a combination of human and machine. The combination of technology and everything that goes with it, with emotion, empathy, human being.
Yeah, I think you definitely need to have that human element for it to be a cyborg, whereas with the robot, it's like fully synthetic. So does that answer your question or?
Yeah. So I just want to have a final comment before we move on.
Yeah, please.
What was it? In the Encyclopedia of Science Fiction, in the cyborg article, I noticed there's an extreme example of a cyborg that is just a brain.
Yeah.
Robot. That's like, wow, that's a cyborg?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's got some living tissue there, and that there's a person at the core of it. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? Like,
me?
Yeah, no, Hangjun, like it's just like that counts as a cyborg because it's like a brain, even if it's that little. I don't know. Have you guys seen RoboCop, the new one? It kind of freaked me out how little of him was left, like human-wise, for them to graft the cybernetic enhancements onto. Like he's basically a spine. when they put all the stuff on him. So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, did you have anything that you had questions about, Gabriella, or you wanted to comment about, or anything that intrigued you about the readings or concepts for this week?
It was the Neuromancer story. I read the first chapter. It was pretty interesting.
The Neuromancer, yeah. So what did you think about that?
It was interesting, like how like the main character, I forgot his name again. I'm bad with names. It was Case. Thank you.
Yeah.
All these parts replaced, and I think there was a mention of drugs and whatnot. Like he was just taking drugs. He was just out of it, and like so many bad things happened.
Yeah, and actually, I want to apologize because I was thinking a week ahead. All of that stuff. That is not for this week. That is for actually.
Oh, I see.
See, this is the pitfall, Hongjun, of like preparing for the class, because I've already read everything, but I can get it kind of mixed up. So I'm really sorry.
No,
don't be afraid to like call me out. Like, what are you talking about? Because I definitely did not know what I was talking about. But yeah, it's got a very distinct kind of style to it. So like, what do you think that has to do with like cyberpunk culture? Because what is cyberpunk?
I actually really like that genre. Like I haven't seen a whole lot of movies and show based on the genre, but what I've seen so far, I love it. Because
why do you like it?
Because you have some like cybernetic cyborg things going on in that story, and you also have like the punk scene where there's people just disobeying the law or whatever, and it's crazy. I really like that genre.
I think you're a rebel, Gabrielle. Definitely. But yeah, it's very distinctive. It's very I don't know, like how would you describe Hongjun? Like I don't really know how to describe how it makes you feel while you're reading it.
Cyberpunk?
Yeah, the cyberpunk thing that we read for this week, the Neuromancer one.
Oh, that was very interesting. Like, it's a combination of cyborgs and some kind of rebellion against some established system. I think it involves that.
Yeah, so it's like rebelling against like established mores about what it means to be human in a way, or
yeah, I feel like it also, the fact that technology is so ingrained in humanity in cyberpunk kind of enhances the rebellion. I mean, there are weapons, enhanced weapons, real deadly, available widely.
I really like that girl at the end, because what does she have? She's got claws that come out of her fingers.
Yeah,
that was cool. I would be down with that. Those would be cool to have. So what, if anything, did you get out of the Cyborg Manifesto, the Donna Haraway's essay? Because I have a PhD and that was hard to read.
So. Oh, that was really dense.
Yeah, but what, if anything, did you get out of it? Like if you had to kind of dumb it down for somebody or just kind of distill it, what would you say about it? And Gabriella, you can jump in if you feel like you've got a good answer.
Yeah, because I do remember reading it earlier, but I just forgot what it was about. I don't know.
It just kind of flies out of your head.
Like what I mostly remember was like the Blade Runner and the Necromancer, because I read like everything today. But let me see if I can like.
Here, let's switch to Hongjun. I think you were looking up your notes, or.
Yeah, I had to actually write down the logic to actually get the point.
Yeah, what do you?
I didn't write down everything.
That's all right.
What I got out of that is that the author in this chapter intended argument for pleasure in the confusion of boundary between machine and man. Second argument is for responsibility in the construction of such boundary.
Okay.
And to contribute to socialist feminism in a postmodern, non-naturalist mode. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah,
really.
So I feel like essentially she's saying that we can learn something from cyborgs. So what do you think feminists can learn from cyborgs? That I have no idea. That's kind of an interesting leap. Or it's like, because you got feminists over here and then we've got cybernetically enhanced humans over here.
I may have misread this part, but I remember at one point reading about the author just talking about equality.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you know there is some difference. Well, in our society, unfortunately, there is some inequality between the sexes. And then, if you go to like a cyberpunk world or sci-fi world, there is inequality between man and machine.
Yeah, definitely. Like like machine being created to serve man, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, I think yeah, Hangjun.
Oh, I think one of the point that the author made was that cyborg world is a post-gender, whatever that really means. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that plays a role. Yeah.
So how do you think cyborgs are post-gender, like if there is such a thing?
Like as if cyborgs were females?
Maybe, but in terms of how we can kind of, with cyborgs you can alter your physiognomy, like your very physiology. So it's like, does gender mean anything whenever you can just change it cybernetically?
That is true.
You know, what is it? And this kind of leads me to the question, like the overarching question of the week, which is like, what does it mean to actually be human in a world where there are cybernetic enhancements? So I think that Haraway, I don't know. What do you think, Hangjun? I don't want to interrupt you.
What does it mean to be human? Well, I think apart from cyborg for a moment, I think that really depends on what presuppositions you have. For example, if you start off with materialistic type of thinking, I mean, that just says universe is all there is. It just exists. So we just exist. I mean, there is nothing special about us. On the other hand, for example, on a Christian perspective, our identity is found in the fact that we were created in the image of God, male and female.
Special, yeah.
Yeah, that's a different perspective. I tend to lean toward the Christian perspective, but
I think with cybernetics, this could be. It kind of reminds me how how science and faith can kind of bump heads a little bit, because like science kind of removes man as the center of the universe. It's like, you're no longer special. You're no longer made in God's image. Like you evolved, that's the big issue with that. Or you're no longer the center of the universe, because we thought that for a long time, the earth was the center of the universe. It's like, no, you revolve around the sun. And so with cybernetics, it kind of takes that away, and it allows it puts that, kind of design aspect, that power, into the hands of individuals as opposed to a creator. So no, I think that's a really interesting point. Yeah, Gabrielle, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, no, like about how to be human and whatnot. Because what I wrote earlier, I remember that with all the enhancements you can have to be a cyborg, or little by little, I think you can lose your humanity.
Yeah, definitely. Dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, read into it more?
Yeah, what do you...
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, you're okay, You're in a closet.
Oh, no, actually, this is my closet. I'm, like, outside of it.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Basically, with all the enhancements, and if you're in a cyberpunk world, that's the norm. Everybody would have it. It's nothing unusual or different. So, whole would start losing its humanity little by little. And you think, if you have like knives as claws or whatever, you can protect yourself more. But that would probably ignite more violence against everybody in that society.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't even be safer properly, and just little by little, it's just get crazier and crazier.
So am I getting the feeling, Gabriella, that like you wouldn't choose cybernetic enhancements for yourself? Like you don't want claws? No, not really. Because it's funny how this kind of science fiction is really interesting, because it in many ways predicts the future. They already have this thing. There's a company in Silicon Valley, and the name escapes me, but they're like chipping their employees so they can have access to the snacks. And Gabriella's like, no, ma'am. And it
also starts off little by little.
Yeah, what about that is so bothersome? Because I think there is something about cyborgs, this kind of melding with man and machine, that's really kind of gives us the heebie-jeebies a little bit.
Yeah, no, like sometimes even if you like perform operations, even if you like transfer organs from person to person, the body can reject it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I want to go over to Hong Jun because I think he's got he has something to say maybe. What do you think about all this? Like, we're debating what it is to be human.
What it is to be human?
When you could just swap out your body and it's just a brain.
Well, it's just hard. I haven't thought about that much. Like,
yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure what to think about all this.
Well, it's because like a lot of, because there's that idea of like a soul. And it's like, there's not really, there's not a place that we can point to on our body. Like, where does that reside? It doesn't really reside in an organ, like your heart maybe. But if you're just a brain with a completely synthetic body, does that make you any less human than somebody who's fully organic?
Well, like, I guess I can answer that from a Christian perspective, perhaps.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Christians, I think, do hold that we do have a soul, an immaterial entity that defines our personhood. I think as long as that is there, I don't think our identity really is lost per se. But I might have to think about this more. So it's
yeah. No, don't worry. I'm not asking you to, like give it's in no way can you give a definitive answer. We're going to continue thinking about this for the rest of the course and probably for the rest of your life. But it's interesting that you're kind of, like for you, it's like the core of humanity is not lost. It's still there. But with Gabriella, she's like, no, you're losing it. Like it's going away little by little, like as you're becoming less human. So I wonder what the answer is.
You can also kind of argue, I forgot the name of this movie, but I think it was from 2015. It's about this robot who was created by this actor, and I forgot his name, but he was from Slumdog Millionaire.
Yes. Are you talking about Ex Machina?
No. It's a robot. It's about a robot.
Okay.
Chappie.
Yes. Okay, I heard about that.
The robot, I forgot what for, but the robot, he gets feelings, he gets emotions, and you can say, because in a lot of ways, like people can humanize monsters or robots just by giving them feelings. So let's say, you're a cyborg, you're mostly mechanical. If you still have feelings and emotions, you might probably still have your humanity.
Yeah, so that's
especially if you have been
human. Mm-hmm. If you haven't been what?
Huh?
If you haven't been what? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, that's okay. Like, if you still have your emotions, you still might probably have your humanity left, because in a lot of movies and a lot of shows, they humanize monsters like vampires or just whatever by giving them.
They're just humans with fangs. Yeah. No, I think that's really true. Do you guys? Oh God, you guys probably don't remember this, but do you guys remember? There's a movie called Johnny Five.
I don't think I've
never heard of
it. Oh, please look it up. It's really funny. But he's a robot and he's kind of created by this company. And then he kind of gets awareness and he realizes that he wants to learn a lot of stuff. And then they want to come and deactivate him. And he's like, deactivate, disassemble, make dead. And he's like, no, Johnny Five alive. And like, it's really adorable. He's just really very cute. And then he it's like this weird self-awareness, and we'll talk about it more when we get to robots at the end of the semester. But I like this idea of it's our feelings and emotion where our humanity lies, because a lot of times that's not really valued, in our society, where it's like you're kind of supposed to be rational and you're supposed to think with your rational mind and think rationally and do rational things. But I like this idea that you've developed, Gabriella, where it's about the human, the emotion is the core of like the human aspect when it comes to cyborgs. So Yeah.
I might just consider something. You don't have to agree with me,
Please.
but
Yeah.
like, if emotion is the only real factor on deciding what makes human, that would imply that like anything with emotion or likeness of emotion would be defined as human to some extent.
That's a good rebuttal. I don't know, Gabriella. He's challenging you a little bit. What do you think? Like, because we do tend to humanize monsters, but that might not necessarily make them human.
That is true. That is true. I guess it just depends on the context and what the author wants to present.
Yeah.
Because there might be some people that might think vampires are the worst, for example, and then there's others just, like I said, maybe like in quote humanizing them. So that's a good point. I guess it just depends.
Yeah, it's very strange because it's like, have you guys ever seen AI with Haley Joel Osment? With
no, actually.
nobody. Oh, I should just stop asking if you've seen stuff because you probably haven't. But no, it's a very, very emotional movie where Haley Joel Osment plays a robot that's created as a child to replace a dead child, and he becomes like very attached to the mother and is like in love with her, and like as a child is, and he feels real. You know what I mean? So it's like I think that we can't really reduce the definition of what it means to be human to X amount of feelings or X amount of flesh or organic matter. I think that the human condition is far more complex than that. But I think that's something that sci-fi writers kind of want to trouble us with, to think about, where it's like, if you could just replace your entire body. And I think that's the point with Donna Haraway's essay, at least the part that I understood, because there's a lot in there. But it's this whole idea of, if we can change our bodies, then these generic categories like gender don't really matter, because we're not bound to a physical body. We can just change it at will. So it's interesting stuff. So yeah, do you guys have any more kind of reflections or thoughts about cyborgs? Like, how did cyborgs and what you're reading this week kind of jive with what you learned about science fiction last week?
I think this week was more interesting, in my opinion. I like cyborgs, and cyberpunk in general, I like it.
Yeah. What about you, Hungjun?
I think it really is Cyborg is an example of like how science fiction is like a laboratory on its own, of its own idea. Like, what happened if man and machine were together? And this would raise all kinds of controversial ethical issues, as we discussed, human condition, identity, and all that stuff. So yeah, I think it just augments what I've learned last week
about science fiction. This whole idea that it's kind of a thought experiment. Like, what if this happened, and what if it were possible? So yeah, I mean, that was a good conversation, y'all. So do you have any questions for me about anything that's going on in the class, anything you're struggling with, or?
I mean, I might probably ask something after like the live or something.
Yeah, okay, all right. That's definitely a really good thing. Okay, so yeah, that's us. I'm gonna go ahead and stop the broadcast, and then we can still chat or whatever. But yeah, this was Cyborgs and Cybernetics for week 2 of American Science Fiction, and we'll go ahead and sign off. So bye.
Bye, YouTube.
All right. All right.